Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to an all-new Weirdos at Home. Very special guest. She's a co-host of this show, and apparently she's making her epic return in the all-new Sam Cave. Tara Brown is joining me.
Hello.
It's been a long time.
It has been a long time.
A very, very long time. It's good to have you back.
Yeah. For those of you that thought I disappeared, I'm still here. But I just took I took a break from podcasting, but man, if anything could bring me back, it's what we're going to talk about today.
Well, we're starting a new series on Weirdos at Home where we're going to do some true crime story reviews. We're starting off. We figured if you want a good pair of shoes, you go to Nike, and if you want a good true crime story, you go to Dateline. And who's the Michael Jordan of Dateline?
That would be Keith Morrison.
Keith Morrison, everybody's favorite Matthew Perry stepdad.
Absolutely. So yeah, we typically watch Dateline. I kind of got you onto it. It was always something that I made sure to watch.
You've always been into Dateline.
I sleep to Dateline sometimes. I'll put a podcast. They have a podcast, and I'll put
Is it in the podcast? It's basically the show.
It's just audio of the show, but I'll fall asleep to that. So we usually watch it in bed, and Sam kind of falls asleep, comes in and out. But this was one that he kept. I'm guessing you could hear it while you were drifting off, but you kept waking up and asking questions.
Because it's so fucking crazy.
And it's fucking crazy. Every time he would doze off and then wake up, it was like the story was completely in a different place. So without further ado, we're gonna be recapping an episode that just aired. We love the intro song, if you could even call it that.
So it's more just a riff.
It's noise. This episode aired a couple weeks ago. If you haven't seen it, you can check it out on the Peacock app, and also I think it's on YouTube yet.
Audio for free on your podcast.
Audio for free on podcast, Dateline. And it's episode 29 of season 31. 31.
Well, I think they just looked up the name, which is a terrifying name.
Yeah, this it's called Along Came Sarah. No. So we'll get started. If you haven't watched it, please check it out.
What does Lester always say when he's halfway to the restaurant?
Oh, you have to explain that. What do you mean when he's halfway to the restaurant?
Well, it's clear. Lester Holt is the for the kids. I know old people are still watching the nightly news. He's the anchor of the NBC nightly news.
Yes.
I mean, it's 6 or 7 nights a week.
That's his main job, and then NBC has him like
on the way out the door,
imprisoned till he has to intro and outro every Dateline episode from studio, and he'll
usually throw some bad backdrop.
Yeah,
either bricks or they catch him halfway to the restaurant
over on by the East
River, pull him
over
at that spot that Johnny Sack and Tony used to meet under the bridge,
and he has to give the quick intro,
and he basically
and then he'll introduce who the host is for the day, and it rotates. We get Keith Morrison, which are my favorite episodes. He's my favorite.
What about Family Mankiewicz? That you now have new respect for.
Josh Mankiewicz is a strong second.
But you didn't realize that you were such a fan of his brother until recently.
Yeah, did y'all know that his brother is, what's his name? Ben Mankiewicz on Turner Classic Movies.
He's like the movie historian. Yeah.
So hats off to the Mankiewicz family. Y'all should be proud. And then we also have Dennis Murphy, who he's fine. He's just not as charismatic.
It's okay.
As Keith and Josh, and then Andrea Canning holds down. I like some of hers. Like she does more, I feel like, investigative reporting than the other guys do. I mean, I remember one episode where like she was reenacting the crime scene, like with the sheriff, and they had her go to Africa. That was the one that happened. The murder happened in South Africa. So she's a gamer.
She wants to do the wild stuff.
Yeah. But this one's Keith, and it's a classic Keith episode, and he tells it so well.
In the way only Keith can tell.
In the only way that he knows how. So basically, this story is about a woman. Here, I'll read the synopsis. The official synopsis. When a woman's 5th husband dies suspiciously, an investigation sheds light into a mysterious past. Trail of bodies and house fires. Lots of them.
And Waco.
Waco.
Shut up and wake up.
No, well, they were in Bell County, which is Fort Hood.
Literally one of the homes were in Waco.
Okay, sorry. Whoa, I guess it has been a long time. Didn't realize.
Yeah. If there's anything I know about Haiti, it's house fires in the city of Waco.
That's true. All right, so this story we're following Sarah of Along Came Sarah. Her name is Sarah Jean Hartsfield is what they call
Last
her.
name changes quite a
Her
bit.
last name rotates around. So throughout the episode, they refer to her as Sarah or Sarah Jean. So if we say that, that's who we're talking about.
Well, Julie's just say Sarah.
That works too. So she's 48 years old at the time of filming.
Now.
Okay.
Okay.
They said that she has lived
Hey, we're almost as old as that.
39 different areas across
She's
the country.
so gross. And she had a haircut looking like she's 65.
Well, we're not the same age. I'm not 48. Are you
Oh,
48?
I feel it after the last couple of years. No, I'm sorry. I thought you said 38.
No, 40.
I said 30.
48. So Sarah,
Oh, 48. Gross.
we open the episode with Sarah's husband in a diabetic coma in Baytown, Texas.
And all we know is that this is her husband.
This is her husband. Then it's revealed it's her fifth husband.
I think that was that get you a free cone.
I guess so. Her little card punch. The next one's free. Next marriage is on the house. So apparently in late 2022, he has a diabetic.
That was last year.
Yeah, that was 6 months
So
ago.
fresh off the press.
Yeah. Some sort of diabetic episode at home. She calls 911. They take him to the hospital. He survives for, I believe, 8 days in a coma.
Diabetic coma.
Diabetic coma.
You want to get you like a little stand for your notes?
No, this is all good.
Okay.
Sorry, production conversation mid-show.
See, that's the thing is, I like to keep it all, pull the curtain back. You like to
guess
keep it.
who's back, and guess who's gonna do it the way that she wants to do it.
I miss you, Trey. I miss you, Trey guy.
You can get back to your broadcast on your own
Oh,
time.
it's cold. God.
So he lives for 8 days. The doctors are doing everything that they think that they can do for him. He's not responding to any of the medication. While he's in the hospital, Sarah Jean goes on Facebook and starts posting thoughts and prayers for my husband.
Oh, like relatives do.
Yeah,
Let everybody know.
And she says that he had due to a stroke, he's in the hospital.
Okay, but that's not the case.
But that's not the case. So she decides to pull the plug after about 8 days. Everyone
got shit to do.
And I got shit to do. I can't be laid down. It's new year, new me, 2023. So luckily, and bless this person, whoever you are, they didn't name this person, but one of the nurses that was caring for, his name was Joe. Joe was her husband in the coma.
And I'll take your word for it.
While caring for Joe, she gets suspicious because she, according to the story that Sarah told doctors and his condition, it's just not adding up. She or he, the nurse says,
Say the nurse.
they have all signs point to he had too much insulin versus not enough.
So an insulin overdose?
Insulin overdose is what they suspected.
Okay.
So that's when the story takes off. So Joe has passed. The nurse.
But who's to say that he wouldn't have fought his way out of that coma?
Yeah. Well, it had she given the correct information.
Right.
They were
They were
treating someone that they thought didn't have enough insulin.
Okay.
So
they're probably pumping more insulin into him.
Yes.
Only making stuff worse.
Only making it worse. Not coming out.
Where is this happening?
Baytown, Texas.
Oh, represent, guys.
Yeah. So the nurse contacts the sheriff of the county.
What was it Kenny Montgomery said? They want to move the trial somewhere where they're more used to murder.
Yeah, so tangent time. Kenny Montgomery, if you've watched anything or seen any of Sam's social media, Kenny Montgomery is the character of Love and Death, who also is accused of killing somebody. And in the show that's currently airing on HBO right now, which you can see Sam in, I see how we got to the plug. I thought we were.
Oh, I wasn't going for the plug. I just love the line in the thing where they go.
So it happens in like late 70s Texas. She is accused of murdering someone. She says it's self-defense, and her and her lawyer want the trial moved out of like rural Wiley, Texas, down to Galveston,
Baytown.
Baytown. because they're just more used to murder.
Somewhere where they're more used to murder.
Yeah.
And that's just,
And Baytown, Texas is no exception, it looks like. So the sheriff is contacted, and I have him somewhere down here. Sheriff Brian Hawthorne.
okay.
Who then gets one of his detectives on the case, this was kind of weird. The detective that they assigned it to, her name is Skylar Rocks. Killer name, by the way.
From like what, like an 80s blaxploitation? What do you mean Skylar Rocks?
Skylar Rocks to me is like a Jen and the Holograms.
Yeah,
sign.
right? A
She's like
late 70s Hanna-Barbera show?
She's like a space detective who sings in a band.
All kinds of band,
Yeah.
of course.
Hey, I'm gonna write that down.
There you go.
Intellectual property.
He's gonna sue you.
She declines to be interviewed by Dateline.
Skylar and the Rocks are here.
Skylar and the Rocks declines to be interviewed by Dateline.
That's weird.
What it's explained is that she is very like by the book, very
Well, time for TV.
yeah. But after we go through the whole episode, I think it was more like this is an active case.
Oh, and I can't do
But
that.
they didn't want to tell us that at the beginning of the episode because then it was ruined the surprise.
Okay.
So although she wouldn't speak to Dateline, she did have many, many conversations with the DA in this county, and that would be my new personal hero, Cheryl Leak, Chambers County DA. And what do you think? What are your impressions of Cheryl?
Well, having played a DA on TV before,
Uh-huh.
I think Cheryl's bringing it.
Yeah.
I think Cheryl's no bullshit, and I think Cheryl's probably the one who told Skylar and the Rocks to maybe not go on that TV show yet.
Maybe we keep this.
Maybe we wait
foot.
till like the whatever happened episode in like a year.
Yeah, but Cheryl has no problem talking to Dateline. She did
So
a
the
very
Kathy Bates
in-depth,
looking lady?
yeah, she does a very in-depth interview. Anyone in and around Texas, just picture like classic Texas aunt or mom, short blonde hair, heavy makeup, but very fierce looking,
Serious eyebrow.
fun like purple blazer. So she likes to have a good time,
Yeah,
work
sure.
and play.
Sure.
But she
What do you think she drinks at an airport? But like a real strong Bloody Mary,
Ooh.
or like a white wine at 7 in the morning?
I think she's gonna do
Did
a
you
white
do
wine,
it?
Chardonnay.
I mean,
at 7
she's not a
a.m.
bitch.
Yeah. Or maybe vodka. Who knows? You can't smell it.
Just
So
straight up vodka. Just
she earned it.
Yep.
She earned it.
Whoa.
So Cheryl Lee, DA, immediately smells suspicion. The coroner report for the husband comes back, and it is an insulin overdose, which
Okay.
didn't match the wife's story. She's like, this isn't adding up. But what we see a lot in this episode is they never have like definitive evidence to like do anything. It's always
You need to prosecute.
there's
Sarah,
not
June.
enough. And as you know, and as I'm sure several people that
I'm sure there are some people who watch this will have seen the episode.
Yeah.
Already.
The DA cannot prosecute anyone
insufficient.
without evidence that everyone agrees is enough to really
Why
slam
is
dunk
there
this
no
case.
Candy Montgomery situation on your hands?
So that's where the most recent body. So there's
Where our
at
story
the end of,
opens.
that's where our story opens. At the end of the story, we will have 2 dead bodies
Well,
and
the spoilers.
several house fires. So that's when it kind of shifts focus and we learn more about Sarah and like where she came from.
Okay.
So Sarah was born, I think they said 75 in Missouri. She lived in like a lower income, lower class home family. And we learned that her biological father apparently molested her when she was young. And as a result, I would hope the mom divorces bio dad. And
Biodad. That also
Biodad.
sounds like a bad cartoon from the 80s.
kicks him out, but then
Saturday morning after Jim and the Rocks. Biodad.
She immediately remarries a former convicted felon for murder.
Oh, so it's okay.
Yeah, we're bringing.
This is a.
We got rid of a molester, but we're bringing
This
in
is
a
Bruce Wayne
murderer.
falling in that bat cave, like the actual cave that bats live in.
Yeah. So she moves this guy in. I think his name is Steve, which no, that's her foster dad. Maybe we didn't get the name of
It's
the
fine.
new guy, but
Finally found a good lawyer.
Sarah, then after years of living with stepdad and mom, then accuses stepdad of molesting her.
Fine.
But this time, her brother basically says like it's not true.
There's no way.
Like there's no way. She's making it up. I was there when she apparently in the incident that she describes, she leaves out that her
Was she, like,
brother
12
was
or something?
there. It didn't say, but yeah. Preteen.
Adolescent, yeah.
Well, it subsequently goes to trial, and he is
Acquitted.
So in the eyes of the law and then the rest of her family, the molestation apparently didn't occur. So then this girl, this lovely young lady, decides that she wants to be voluntarily put into foster care. She's done with her family. She tells her
Wait,
mom.
but she still lives with her mom.
Yeah, but she tells her mom, I don't want to be here anymore, and put me in foster
I didn't
care.
know. I'm sorry, I didn't know you could do that.
Me either. And
I only got the minion.
it's not emancipation because
No. She's not old enough.
she
first
goes
of all.
into a foster family, and that's who she ends up living with until she graduates. And
Do you remember like in the 90s when every once in a while a sitcom would have the storyline of like the kid decides to emancipate?
yeah,
What a
classic.
dream. What a dream. So she goes and says, no, I'm not going to emancipate because I'm not old enough.
Yeah, and a very
So,
telling.
Send me off to the wonderful CPS program.
Yeah, Missouri foster care system in the what do you think? Late 80s, early 90s.
Well, Star-Lord was part of it, and that was just Yondu thinking him up.
Heard.
Yeah.
So, from what we hear though, mom was like, "Be my guest," and like barely rolled the car
And
to
that
a
was,
stop
but
before.
that was
booting
before
her
you
out.
cried all through Guardians of the Galaxy 3, right?
Don't even get me started
Okay.
about that.
That's getting you back for calling me a nerd.
So now we find Sarah. She's at the teenage age. She's living with her foster family, Barbara and Steve. Those are her.
It's not normal.
They looked normal.
Okay.
They looked like they had been through the ringer. They looked like
But they were normal when they acquired their child. Well, I guess Billy Joel had something to say about it.
We don't have the rights to that music, so we gotta shut
So
that
keep it
down.
under 20 seconds.
So she lives there. It says they say that she's thriving. She's
I
going to
get it.
school.
You
She
thought you were a
graduates.
big shot, didn't you?
She graduates high school. She's involved in
Well-
clubs and things like that. But she then accuses her stepfather or her foster father, Steve, of molesting her
This is now the third attempt at this.
that we know of. And the foster mom basically put her foot down and was like, "You're crazy.
Get
Like,
the fuck out of here.
not every family does that. Like, you can't keep
You
doing
can't
that.
keep going.
You can't keep crying wolf." And she said that she got mad. She stomped up to her room like a teenage girl would do and never spoke of it again. So
Just shut it down.
She shut it
just
down.
got shut down.
yeah.
But also, what we learned some other stuff about her in high school. We saw the glamour shots, but
Missouri's finest, I guess. I don't
I
know.
said she was a wild ass.
So
crazy.
what I noticed in this episode is like many of
right here.
Oh
and it's
my
about to bite your face.
is it on there?
It's
still?
off.
Um,
You said what a podcast with my paws on.
that would be the screenshot that we would share.
That would be the logo for the video.
One thing I noticed about this show or this episode was a lot of the key players weren't on camera, wouldn't be
They didn't want
interviewed.
anything. I think they're so rocked.
You think? And but instead we get like a circus of just these great characters that she encountered along the
I mean, it
way.
really is more characters than Infinity War.
Yeah. So the next character is what you're alluding to. Bill, who's a childhood friend, went to high school with her.
What's a prom?
They
together?
briefly dated in high school. He looks rocked, like
40 years later, he's rocked.
yeah, still.
Is he the one who said, man, she was wild? Legit said she'd sneak out of the house and just wanted to go mess around.
Yeah, he describes Sarah as wild and a huge flirt and very well liked by
So Sarah
every man that she meets.
Sarah was fucking.
She was doing something.
At least hand stuff.
Probably.
Okay.
And that leads to her meeting her first husband, actually. So remember, 5 marriages.
You gotta play the field if you're gonna catch one.
We're on number 1. And that is
Who's lucky winner number 1?
Titus. Oh, he had such a weird last name.
Titus McConaughey.
Keenershald. Titus Kinnershald.
Kenosha.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Who cares? So she meets Titus.
Well, who, by the way, in the 80s looked like a young Judge Reinhold. He was a fun good looking dude.
He's like an
Like
all-American.
a young Kevin
looking
Bacon
guy.
kind of looking
Yeah.
guy. Not so much now.
that we did see.
No, we
Oh,
did?
yeah.
They look like gold dust now.
So she had met Titus in high school. He was her high school sweetheart.
Mhm.
He decides to join the army fresh out of high school.
Well,
And so before he ships out, they get married at
In-
18 years old.
Right after school.
Right after
Yeah.
school. And that's in 1993.
Right.
So they marry in 93. He then gets shipped off to whatever war was going on at that time.
I thought he got sent to Japan.
Maybe.
It doesn't
It's not
matter.
important to the story though. They stay married for 2 years. And what breaks them up is that when he returns from service, he has men coming up on the street basically saying like, oh, why?
She gave me a ride from
Yeah. Boy, by the way, I just gotta tell you, I've been having an affair with your wife, blah, 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 blah. Not that uncommon in military
Have you ever
relationships.
seen
I hear,
Stacey
but
walks on Saturday morning?
she ended up getting pregnant by another man. during
Okay.
this
And I believe that man also walks up to him on like at a Dairy
yeah,
Queen and
he's
is
like, hey, by the way,
"It's
like
fine,
we were
bro."
together during this time. She thinks it's mine.
But
So-
you know what I found interesting is that Titus got leave from the military by explaining to them where he was stationed halfway across the world, and he got permission to come home and go confront his wife.
That's a different.
Oh, well, I'm blowing the.
Yeah,
Okay, so we get that.
different husband.
There's so much in this goddamn episode.
So basically, Titus almost gets out scot-free. He divorces her after 2 years in 95.
After he comes home and gets
After he
made
comes home
embarrassed
And
everywhere.
finds out that she'd been cheating. The baby that she had with this other man, she lost in a miscarriage. So no baby was born.
God works in
after this.
mysterious ways, folks.
So that relationship's over. He moves on with his life.
Okay.
And he finds a new woman.
Well, you guys can
What's her
see these
name?
notes. It looks like an Obama State of the Union.
He meets Angela. That's his next girlfriend.
Angela.
And actually, he ends up marrying her because they catch up with them now. And,
Okay, they're still together.
yeah, and they're still together.
And they hold hands everywhere. They
Yeah. And Angela was ready to spill the tea on
go. Yeah,
Sarah.
because it wasn't her.
So in the course of their
Well,
relationship,
like you wouldn't do that if it was. You absolutely would do that if it was an ex of mine. Where you go, if we'd say what happened, Keith.
absolutely.
Okay.
If you haven't figured it out already, this Sarah person is a nut, like a super crunchy peanut
Well,
butter.
luckily for
nut.
me, I never dated any of those before we got together. So
So throughout the course of their new relationship, Titus and Angela are stalked, harassed, their car gets vandalized, air
What about
left
who?
tires. They know it's Sarah, but they can't prove it, to the point that after they've called the cops so many times, the cops are like, look, they turn it around on them and say, if you contact her, you're gonna go to jail. And
What-
that's like a trend that we see throughout this whole episode, is like Sarah's able to manipulate police,
And also-
firemen, everybody to
local government.
to thinking that
It also makes you
It's
think
not
like,
on her.
because in all these stories, there's a little bit that never makes the official story.
mhm,
So it makes me think like if she was running through men the way she was behind Titus's back,
yeah, oh yeah,
it makes me wonder if she's not like setting up shop and running through police and judges and DAs.
absolutely.
So by the time he comes up and
They
they're
can
like,
say that on television, yeah, very. I think that's very, very, especially because she was always in these kind of small towns.
Oh, yeah.
Where, so
I mean, you
anyway,
can't do that here in Austin because we don't have any cops anymore.
that's right. So Angela, finally, the last straw for her is she and Titus are babysitting a friend at the friend's house.
The
A
kids.
friend's kid.
Friend's kid.
At not a house that they own.
Okay.
It's somebody else's. While they're hanging out, she smells gasoline, like a strong smell of gasoline. And so she tells Titus, I think something might be wrong with the cars, like, let's go check. So they go out on the front porch and they see Sarah like throw down
The
a
gas
gas can and run away. And so that was the last straw. The house didn't burn, but that's some foreshadowing, guys. And so
They walk out
again,
to
the police won't help. The police investigate and they say, and you had a big problem with this, they say that, sorry, there's no such thing as attempted arson. It's either she burned
No.
the house down or she didn't burn the house down and therefore didn't do anything
Well,
wrong.
as somebody who has played an assistant district attorney on premium cable, how do you not, if you catch somebody and have a witness that sees somebody pouring gasoline or even leaving a scene that reeks of gasoline, which we could have easily tested and been shown that that's what it was.
Yeah.
How the fuck can you not put attempted arson on? I mean, what was it? It's like, oh, I thought it was water. I was watering your plants for you. I want your plants to go faster.
Oh, was it water?
Oh my God.
Sorry. I want a green screen behind
So
me.
that's, hey, we're in Delaware.
So luckily, even though the cops can't help, and Sarah eventually leaves them alone because she gets distracted in her next relationship. She ends up, this is husband number 2. She ends up marrying Titus's best friend.
Really?
Who they don't name at all, and he doesn't appear.
I don't think they showed a picture.
They didn't even show a picture of him because he's like,
I'm not.
I don't care. So married him. It was a short-lived marriage because he found out she was cheating on him.
What?
Wow. And so she gets dumped. He just drops her like a
divorces and it's over.
Yeah.
Now, did he get any crazy retribution at him?
Not that we heard of. And we didn't even know his name, but
that's weird.
She's now under the age of 22 with 2 divorces under her belt.
Save some for the rest of us.
I know, right? So at 22, she's lost. She doesn't have a college education. She's alone. No more husband to take care of her. So she decides, you know what?
Or
I'm going to be my own woman.
Take care of.
And she joins the army. So she joins the army at 22. They station her. Her basic training, they must have labeled her, like, seen her for the crazy that she is, because when she finished her training, they stationed her in like rural Alaska. They got her as far away.
It's Camp Wainwright, I believe, in Alaska, which is like the joke in every fucking movie dealing with the military or like politics. I believe Cuomo said it himself about the National Guardsman that his daughter was dating, where he goes,
is that where he said
where he goes, if he makes the wrong stuff, he's got to be working at Wainwright.
Dang. Well, as horrible as that place sounds, love does bloom there for her.
Now, what was her job? She was the liaison between intelligence.
Something, yeah, because she had a very long military career. Started at 22, went until, I guess, her early 40s, about 20 years in the military. She did work herself up, or work her way up. She had like special security clearance. She worked with like Intel.
No wonder she got those.
Hard work and
perseverance. Perseverance.
While in Alaska, she meets her third husband, and this is Chris Donahue.
I was gonna say just a polar bear.
A lovely Inuit man. A walrus. She meets Chris Donahue. He is a couple years younger than her. Easy picking.
I think
he looks like a scared deer in every picture that we saw.
It's a couple years where, between 23 and 20 or 22 and 19, those 3 years make a huge fucking difference. Because that first picture we saw looked like, oh my God, I didn't even know who to compare to, but like the kid in every army movie that's like not ready for it. Yeah.
So they meet and fall in love, and he gets her pregnant.
Well, Saddam never did take Alaska. I want you to know that.
He heard about Sarah, and he's like, no.
We will not touch it.
She gets pregnant. He decides, I'm going to marry her. It's the right thing to do.
I want to. He's just like this country born.
Yeah.
Do the right thing.
Yeah. So he then gets shipped off. They start a family in he gets stationed in Fort Hood, Texas. Whoop whoop, shout out again. Right down the road. They subsequently end up having 4 kids.
Is that where the Kolache place is? Everybody stops there.
That's West Texas, babe.
Oh, it's the bomb.
It's between Waco and Hillsboro.
Okay.
Before the Bronx. Right before the Bronx.
You got to the Bronx, you went too far.
They end up having 4 kids. Ashley is the oldest. We
within what, 3 years, 4 kids, and
it looked like they had 2 pretty quick, and then waited because they had like the 2 younger girls.
Okay. So whose kid is our little narc that walks us through the whole story?
Ashley, the oldest daughter. We see a lot of her.
And this is her dad?
Yes. We literally just.
Hi, I've been podcasting. She's back. I don't know if you can tell.
And then she has a younger brother named Ryan, who he is messed up.
Hello, darkness.
Yeah,
my old
he
friend.
is due to the circumstances of his
Was
upbringing.
it the
He
Black
seems a
Nebula
lot
that threw you
tired, like
off?
dead eyes, which who could blame him? But no, Ashley's the older daughter, and that's kind of the one that is the whistleblower, and we'll get to that
She's kind of your
later.
She's kind of your guide through the
She's
story.
like the anti-Sarah almost. And then they have two younger kids, but we don't
You don't ever see them.
see them or meet them.
They've got great agents.
So, blast from the past. While Chris is overseas, Sarah gets word that her biological father, remember the one that molested her, is dying. He's terminally ill of something.
That's a typical old,
So-
dying, gray haired.
Yeah,
Gray,
he looks
not
like
hair, but
a very
gray beard.
sick Santa Claus type man.
Oh, hey.
Just trying to get the visuals out there.
We were just joking around about it when we realized that like it seems to be like in most movies, the father of like a murder victim
Mhm,
looks like that.
mhm.
The fall of the beard and the.
Yeah, small town kind of
I'm
look.
sorry, I've got a pimple like up inside my nose.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I'm so sorry.
Next week on Dateline.
Do we need to pause?
It's not going anywhere.
Oh, okay. So the rest of her family are really weirded out by this because Sarah says, I'll take him. I'll take care of him. Bring him down. He can live in the house. I'll take care of him. It's all good.
But
So-
this is the dad that started the whole thing.
This is the dad that apparently molested her for real and was kind of the catalyst for her ending up in foster care in the first
whole
place.
thing.
So she takes him in, and then 3 days later, he's dead mysteriously.
What?
Ashley, the daughter, our little hero, said that she was sitting right there when he died. That his mom, she said, mom gave him his medicine, and then right after that, he like clutched his chest
What?
and like choked and coughed a little bit, and then dead. Super weird coincidence, but I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, she obviously didn't. I mean, based on the insulin guy, is it fair bet to say that she gave him something that wasn't?
This was kind of the beginning for how easy it was, because this could have been her first. They didn't investigate it, but from what we learn now, like that could have been her first murder.
Well, here's my thing: is where the fuck is law enforcement?
Good question. I guess
The kid is screaming from the roof.
I guess since he was terminally ill and
They
kind
just
of a
go, "What are we
dirtbag,
gonna do?"
they were like, "Who cares? He's dead." So anyway, life is happening. She's still married to Chris. They have 4 kids now. They're living in Fort Hood, Waco area.
Colleen area.
And then in 2007, both her and her husband are on active duty. So that's when they're shipped off for like a year.
I think they're in early Iraq.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah. And so the kids end up staying with like family members and stuff like that.
But what if for some like kind of an extreme long time?
Yeah. Which is weird.
Like,
Yeah,
almost
be
like
apart
a
from
year
your parents
before
for
they-
a year. And,
Before they got to come up.
yeah. Yeah.
That's a bigger conversation on the way W handled Iraq and if there wasn't a regular, transition of troops. But
Yeah. So when they return, there's like this now power couple status. Like the neighbors and friends are like, what a great, like all American family.
they're heroes.
Heroes. They serve our country. They have obedient, respectful kids.
I bet.
This and that. She can do it all. But from what we learned from the kids is that, and hello, she's one way at one moment, and then in a snap has like crazy rage issues, and she goes back and forth and back and forth. So that's when we learn that there's a lot of abuse going on, physical abuse to the children by the hand of Sarah.
I mean, you can correct me because I was the story has become, I've listened to it so many times, half asleep on the podcast, that even watching it today, it kind of had this thing of like warm blanket. And I started falling asleep again.
Yeah, and I don't know about y'all, but it's a super like rainy, just stay inside.
Austin,
Soup
go
day.
stay.
Yeah.
That sounds great after this. But is this when she starts punching the kids in the face?
Yes. So her son is interviewed and he says that she would, usually start with a belt, but then like drop the belt and just start wailing, punching him in the face.
Happy Mother's Day to
That was happening as young as like 10 years old for him.
How the fuck do you go to school after that?
He said he stayed home from school for a week.
So let his face heal.
Yeah. And so the daughter was also getting
Splash Week.
beat up. Field day. The daughter was getting beat too. And so at one point she threatens her mom by saying, I'm gonna call CPS on you. And that's when the mom like turned it up and was like, I'll give you something to call CPS for.
I think she had something already.
And so the daughter doesn't end up contacting CPS, but apparently a friend of hers, her father, called CPS because apparently
the friend's dad.
Yeah, the friend's dad, because apparently she'd come over and he'd seen a black eye, bruises. He thought maybe her fingers were broken.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So CPS shows up at the house, but the daughter is so terrified that she lies
And she just
says that it was an accident, like I fell or whatever. So she's again,
I fell down 16 flights of stairs.
Again, the authorities are like this close, and she like wiggles away like a snake. And we see more of that in her life. Like she's that manipulative and that controlling that she's able to pretty much like have the family and people in her life doing whatever she wants them to do. The authorities either are that unintelligent or they're just tired of dealing with,
Kind of showed up every week.
Yeah, like we're just tired of dealing with this, hearing it from this woman, whatever. We can't prove anything. We got other things.
It always feels like for some reason there's insufficient hard evidence.
Yeah.
Because Lord knows your child with black eyes and broken hands we're gonna need to know more.
All the while, the dad, Chris, is doing nothing. Like he wants his family to stay together so badly that he's willing to just roll over and let her basically control everything.
Now, did he see like real combat?
We don't know for sure. They didn't really get into that, but he won't step in when she's doing this to the kids. She convinces him that like this is what they deserve. This is how we agreed to raise them. We're gonna raise respectful kids or whatever. So dad's no help. Dad's no help. And so that kind of is the way life is for the next like 7 years or so.
These two, the brothers.
Yeah,
wait, so do they have the younger kids too or still around? But we don't really find out anything about them.
Yeah, because I think at this point they're still minors, so they they wouldn't have been interviewed. But so that goes on, and then in 2014 they're still living at that big house that they bought out by the lake. They move into this nice, huge home. They reconnect with an old army friend who ends up being one of the neighbors, and they interview these guys, these goobers, and they're like,
it's not making a thing, right? So I was sitting here going, I wonder why we lost both those wars.
They interview these goobers, and both of them are like, we had no idea. They were just the best. And the kids were always happy. They were just the all-American family. So, she was spinning plates, like just keeping all the
lying on top of lies.
Oh my God.
Lies.
So in 2014, they're still living out there. And then she gets a phone call from her family back in Missouri that Grandma Merle has passed away. And so Grandma Merle was her biological grandmother.
Okay.
She, at the time of her death, was living on a 325-acre piece of property with a house and a barn, a farm, all of that. Well, Sarah is having money issues because they can't afford this big new house that they bought.
Broken hands at the pediatrician. They can't cost
a lot of kids' appointments. These kids keep falling down the stairs and paint cans falling from shelves on top of their heads.
They've learned to wear the shoes on the right feet.
Belts not around their waist, but in all weird ways. So
it's 4 kids.
I think the figure was that she was about $200,000 in the hole, and that they were going to lose the house. So when she hears about Grandma Merle, in her head, she's like, well, I'm about to get a big inheritance. I'm going to get that farm. I'm going to sell it, and that's going to solve all our money problems. So she loads everybody up, husband, kids. They go from Texas to Missouri for the funeral.
And that's a fun drive.
That's a super fun drive if you've ever done it.
I have, yeah.
And then while they're there, that's when her brother, what was that guy's name?
I did it with my old man just puffing heaters the whole way to you.
Oh no. Can't seem to look at brother's name, but
Fine.
her brother tells her
Was
like,
it like Bill or are they all Bill?
Isn't everyone Bill? The brother and his wife have been taking care of the grandma in her like remaining years, living at the house with her, helping her around the farm. And so, unbeknownst to Sarah, Grandma Merle.
Was it Xander?
No,
Okay,
we'll get to Xander.
Okay, sorry.
Sweet, innocent Xander. Yeah, her brother from middle of nowhere, Missouri, is named Xander.
Okay. Well, we'll get there. Let's talk. I feel like we should have charted this out for folks.
Tells her that she's been cut out of the will. Sarah is not in the will. She will not.
He goes, you can, I think what the line was, I mean, you can look around.
Yeah, well, she ends up causing like such a commotion and screaming at him and screaming at his wife, and her kids are there seeing all this. And so basically, just to get her out of their hair, they're like, take whatever you want from the house. Like, we're gonna live here, but if you want furniture, if you want anything, it's yours.
Just to get rid
Just
of
to get rid of her. Yeah. Just so like if we placate her,
God,
maybe she'll leave us alone. So
talk about an estate sale.
Yeah, flash too. Everything. Fire sale. So the next day she comes back to the house with a U-Haul with her husband and not everyone, and they start tearing
They
that
were
house.
lied to.
Oh yeah. Or they knew and they just are afraid to say anything. With this woman, I mean, she's very manipulative, very controlling.
Which also rules in fear.
Fear. Ooh.
More so than Thanos.
Sarah Thanos.
Thanos would just be throwing the stones at her. Here you go.
So
I don't want trouble.
they rip this house apart, take everything.
They really didn't clean it out, did they?
Yes. And so then they leave, and the brother's like, all right, we'll figure it out. We have the land, we have the house, it's gonna be fine. So within a couple days, him and his wife and their nephew, Xander, are asleep at Grandma Merle's house, which is now their house. Big farmhouse in Missouri. And in the middle of the night, her brother wakes up and there is just smoke all in, like he can't even see his hand in front of his face in the house. The house is burning. And he's like, and it was all pine, so it ran through that house faster than you could snap your fingers. So he is able to get out, and his wife gets out, but they can't find Xander. Xander's still in the house.
The kid.
Yeah, the little boy. And so he, runs from the burning house to the brother's house, which I guess was close by.
Right, that's the Stephen Root shot we're joking about.
Yeah. And then they come back and thank God they were able to get Xander out.
And that little boy was barely, he had a little like abrasion on his nose.
Yeah, but he looked like exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been so much worse.
Yeah, so they took him to the hospital and he was treated for smoke inhalation, but he did live. And the brother knew immediately that this was Sarah. Sarah had caused this fire. But again, they couldn't prove anything. It was her word against his.
How does a pattern of this behavior not end up being evidence in of itself?
I guess since it happened all over different parts of the country, like
now it seems like it's a U.S. attorney issue.
Yeah. So he calls her a couple days after the fire and basically says, it didn't work. I'm still here. Xander's still here. You lost, like you didn't get her.
Try again, dummy.
And her only response was, well, why was Xander there?
Like I was just hoping to burn you guys down.
Cold-blooded. So
because he lives here, because he's our child.
He's the nephew. But that's not all she got accomplished when she went home to Missouri. She had other things going on. Remember, she ransacked that house and now has a U-Haul full of stuff.
Yes.
The
brother would go, it's like, hey, take whatever, get the fuck out of my hair.
So she still has all this stuff, but they can't bring it back to Texas. So she reconnects with an old high school friend named Brian
Is this
Altus.
Posehn?
Yeah.
He looks like a very malnourished Brian Posehn.
Yeah. Google that and you'll know exactly what we're talking about. So Brian went to high school with her, old friend. I can tell just by the interview that maybe he had a thing for her back then.
Hey, he's a nerd that had a crush on her.
And
she never gave him a shot.
Never gave him a shot. She saw him as being easy to manipulate.
And now he's going like,
And
hey, look,
so
I finally am good enough.
They reconnected at the funeral and she asked, hey, can I store some stuff in your garage from my grandma's house? And so he's like, yeah, sure. And so she fills his garage up with her grandma's possessions.
Like to the door closing.
And then he said the night of the fire, she showed up at his house and said, can I stay here tonight? And he's so lovesick or dumb that he was like, yeah.
Since fucking high school.
But what we find out later was after the fire and the fire marshals came out and did an investigation, they said that the fire started on a corner of the house that had a lot of poison ivy around that area. And then Brian said that when she came to his house that night, she had covered in poison ivy. So again,
what more evidence do these people need?
So she stays the night, but they end up hooking up that night. So they have.
Well, yeah, because this person is obviously capable of real intimacy.
Yeah.
She uses sex as a weapon to cover up her fucking tracks. If you got to throw one to fucking starving Brian Posehn, whatever it takes. By the way, he fucked her covered in bloated, swollen fucking.
He got poison ivy too.
Oh, in places you don't want to get poison ivy.
And she's still married. She's married to this Chris guy who just traveled with her to Missouri to help ransack her grandmother's house. And she then carries on a 2-year relationship outside of her marriage with Brian. And the way that he talked about the early part of the relationship, I mean, he was love sick. Like,
well, he had a crush on her since high school.
He said that she had a way of making you feel like you were the most important person on earth. She,
like
made you feel so good about yourself. And that's when Keith asked, like, was she good in bed?
No, do it. Go all.
Yeah, you could do Keith.
Well, was she good in bed? And then he gets out a little smile. We're like, Keith, what do you smile?
Speaking of Keith, he opened it with I did the quote. Read that in Keith Morrison voice. This is how he opened the episode.
Wow. Right? This is right. All happy families are alike. But an unhappy family is unhappy in its own way.
So Keith asks, was she good in bed?
Keith is getting to become a real parody of himself lately.
Yeah, and he's owning it, and I love it.
He doesn't care.
He's like, I'll lean on anything I want to.
I mean, he straight up was doing haikus at one point. It was like happy, sad, dead, sex.
So
like fucking poetry jam at one point.
So during this 2 years that she's with Brian, things do go south.
But she's married this whole fucking. Where is the husband?
He's off
Fort Hood,
fighting the war. They don't say like why he was down for this, or maybe he didn't know, or maybe he knew and just didn't want to.
Or maybe thought she was staying at the farmhouse.
No, because like they knew about the fire. There's no farmhouse.
Like, pussy.
Yeah, Brian
shows up covered in.
The daughter had said that dad would do anything to keep that family together, and so he probably knew, but didn't want to rock the boat
because they have such this image in their neighborhood.
Yeah,
people literally driving by, stopping and saluting them.
Real messed up.
God,
psychological manipulation and torture. So
only there were a couple good TVDAs.
The relationship with Brian Sowers, they subsequently end up getting restraining orders on each other,
which is always a genius move. It's like, oh yeah, well you can't come near me.
And then he's quoted as telling Keith Morrison, she could probably kill someone in front of a police officer and convince them that she is innocent and didn't do it.
You know who we've heard.
And that's when Keith said, you're gonna want to remember that. Was that Keith? Did I do Keith?
No, that was some scary old man.
Hepburn.
Well,
You're gonna want to remember.
You'd like to remember that one.
Um,
But you know who else we've heard that same
it
description
was
about?
very Trumpy.
Where Trump said,
Yeah.
I shoot somebody in Fifth
And
Avenue.
I actually have a whole, like, at the end of our
Okay,
recap,
okay.
I have this whole thought about the parallels between the Trump texts and her texts.
Okay.
Remember, she's texting Dateline. We'll get to that.
Okay.
So at
That's
one
fortunate.
point, they're separated, they're not talking, they have a restraining order. Then she sends him an envelope one day.
Oh my God.
And he opens it and
At work.
Yeah, at work, and he smells urine. And when he looks in the envelope, it's a used positive pregnancy test. And so he's like, fuck no, like this isn't.
Wasn't it refreshing as hell to see Brian stand up?
Yeah.
Finally be like,
So he calls her and says, look, we need to talk, come over to my house. We need to figure this out.
He had his Sarge sister there.
Yeah, he brought his sister for support, which I
she must be a Sarge.
I'm scared.
It must be like the sister's a Midwest, like.
So while they're all three at the house, he says, well, I want you to take another pregnancy test here. Let's do it here.
Let's do it live. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
She refuses, then agrees and says, look, I'm just gonna leave this whole thing alone. Like,
is this when she's in the bathroom for like 4 hours?
I'm gonna leave and I'll just leave you alone. Before I go, can I use the restroom? So they're like, yeah, sure. So she goes in the restroom and is in there for a very long time. I don't know if it was 4 hours, but long enough for him and his sister to be like, what the fuck is going on? So then she comes out and she's like, all right, bye forever, and leaves. And so later that afternoon, he leaves his house to go meet up with friends or whatever.
Imagine the man needed a drink.
To celebrate. And then he gets a phone call that from the police that his house is on fire.
What the fuck now? First of all, 2 questions. 2 guys. Sam Slade, HBO. Where did the fucking pregnancy test come from?
I have no idea.
And why could we not have, like, why is so psycho? Did you just hand it to some pregnant lady on the street and be like, hey, go piss in this envelope and all this stuff?
I wouldn't put it past her.
Okay,
She's
second.
so manipulative. Everyone we talked to was like played by this woman.
Second, do you think she paid for that pregnancy test?
Yeah.
$50 large one's 3rd trimester. What's up?
Yeah.
And then the second question is a stupid question. What would she have done in that bathroom that would set up the fire?
So frustrating. They never said. And I don't know how she could be there, do something, leave, then he leaves, and then the fire.
It's like Joker level.
So I don't know. Maybe, hey, here's a theory. Maybe there was like a window in the bathroom and she unlocked it.
Figured out how to leave it open.
And so he leaves, she comes back and like does something.
The whole poison ivy phase.
That's my my assumption.
Right.
Anyway, so he dodged a bullet. He called her, quote, the devil's daughter.
I love when he's straight goes, I truly believe. Look, everybody's been through a relationship with a like, boy, did I dodge a bullet. And everybody around you tells you that.
Yeah.
Depending on how bad it is, they tell you that for years to come. But when he has this moment, he's like, and I gotta tell you, I truly believe I dodged a bullet. You slept with a lady covered in poison ivy.
It's kind of on you, dude.
Who smelled like a roaring fire.
Gasoline or a burning house.
She got gasoline on her soot. Fucking.
But hey, she's the one that got away in
Here's the thing. Brian wasn't really on.
Think about your high school crush. Would you burn a house down and get poison ivy?
You know, here's a problem.
One chance.
In high school, I was just coming off of a house fire. I was fine. I'm fine.
Oh my God. Okay. So that was the end of Brian.
I just can't believe my dad didn't end up married to this lady.
Seriously,
the houses
sounds like
it's time.
They would have crossed paths.
The houses they could have burnt down together.
So Brian gets out scot-free. Not sure. You had asked me later, you were like, well, what happened to all of grandma's stuff in the garage? And I said, the house burned down. What did you think?
I mean, because we threw a real fit for all that shit. All those clown paintings.
Oh my God. Anyway.
What is it? What do they call the little precious moment dolls? Is that what they were called? That grandmas used to have?
Yeah. Precious moments. Right? I could do a whole podcast about precious moments.
Well, look forward to Karen Brown's Precious Moments podcast.
Usually in a beautiful cabinet, glass.
PMP.
Yeah. So Sarah, through all of this tragedy, she just lost another love. Brian,
lost
so
another love.
she's still married though. She's got her husband, but I mean, what good is he? She's clearly not into him anymore. She ends up meeting another beau, another man comes
from
along.
Waco.
No, this is David Bragg.
This goes quick.
He was in the air.
Fuck, Dave, come on, man. Ask around.
So David Bragg was also in the military. He worked in some sort of construction job that had him doing construction at Fort Hood, and that's where they met.
Was this guy in the Cabela's hat?
Yes.
I was there with David George.
That's the next husband.
Okay, I don't want to get ahead. It's like a goddamn
This is David
MCU.
number one.
Okay.
So she's still married. He's married too. I forgot.
He was married.
Yeah, when they met, they were both married. Then his wife mysteriously dies.
Did
and
you
then
mysteriously?
their house burns down. And so now he's free. And so he starts a relationship with Sarah in Fort Hood. The husband, Chris, who's still around somewhere, is shipped off to Japan, I think is what we heard.
Finally, yeah.
And so 2 days after he's shipped out, she moves David into the house,
So they're
the
home.
lake house.
They're home.
Yes, the kids are there
Right.
too. And so she tells the kids, oh, he's just a friend. He's going to be sleeping in the guest room, whatever. Little sleuth daughter, Ashley.
She goes, I went there and I ripped the blanket off. What was her plan?
She said that she was so suspicious that she went to the room that he was supposedly sleeping in at night and like walked up and it looked like someone was in the bed.
Yes.
And she said she ripped the blankets off and it was all pillows.
I'm saying though, but if they had just fucked, they were like, hey, we got to keep up appearances. What was the plan then?
I think she's
She
lived.
knew what was she so sure and so
I
good.
think she knew her. She's like, I think out of everyone that they talk to, this Ashley girl, like, no one knows her mom better than she does.
Was it the shoes sticking out of the sheets at the bottom?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I don't think there's anybody in there.
That's some dedication. They really didn't want to find out. So
We got busted. That's how we got busted taking out the car. Freshman year when the jig was up was me and Dylan Gilmore.
if y'all haven't tried the tropical fruit Waterloo, it's so good. So sorry to interrupt. I had to give a little plug.
We had to we took stuffed animals. And Dylan Gilmore's hair was like, very dark brunette. My hair was, wonderful like my hair is. So we used different stuffed animals with the same color hair. And we thought for a second that would get past Kelly Slade, who will rip some covers off. So jig was up.
So the daughter finds out. And so she,
Don't you peek in at one point and see them in bed together after that?
I think so. So the daughter ends up stitching. She gets in touch with dad in Japan. That's when what you were talking about happened.
When he flies home.
He gets special permission to fly
Because
all the way.
he's like captain.
Yeah, all the way back to
I got a
Texas.
life. Burning people's homes
Yeah.
down.
And he gets with the daughter and tells the daughter to like leave the garage door unlocked or whatever. So
he sneak attack, right? We're
he
coming
sneak
in.
attack.
It's like the Bin Laden mission. We're coming in.
So he sneak attacks, catches them in bed together. She tries to talk her way out of it, but it's not gonna work this time. There's only so much a man can take, I think.
I don't know. Put the matches down. Put the matches down.
So he divorces her. Finally, Chris is free.
I'm surprised the county was like, we don't really have enough evidence to grant this divorce.
You're stuck.
Waco.
So
Bring Texas back every day.
he divorces her. He's finally free and still alive. So you go, Chris. But she's not down for too long because she still has David in her life. He doesn't leave her.
That's stupid.
Now they can be together because they're both. His wife's dead now. Her husband.
Push that mouse up to the corner, the far left corner, all the way up to the corner. There you go.
Sorry. Anyway.
Steve Jobs, ladies and gentlemen.
So her and David end up moving to.
David's dumb, isn't he? He's kind of a dummy.
Again, I just think she finds like men who are easily manipulated and lonely, and she gives them attention.
To some extent, men in general are somewhat pretty easily manipulated if they're sex involved.
Absolutely.
Okay, now I don't want to be a buzzkill or something. I'm some like men's rights activist. But if a woman
I
knocks on,
love when
Yeah.
sentences start like that.
if a woman knocks on your door and she's covered in poison ivy welts,
Uh-huh.
in abrasions,
Uh-huh.
smells like soot.
And your garage is full of
You remember like
ridiculous
when,
stuff.
you remember when something would blow up on the Muppets and like Animal or Gonzo would be covered in soot?
Mhm.
Hey, I like to pray that the man Brian at least made her shower. But then she's got that poison ivy cream all over her face. She'll say the Joker,
Hot.
don't come in here.
That's about as sexy as it gets. And where are they, Missouri?
It's an acquired taste.
So her and David are free to be in love now.
If you're free,
They get engaged.
it's like your mom when you do it.
They're free. They get engaged and they move from Fort Hood to like a small town in Minnesota. And they find Garfield, Minnesota.
Where everybody hates Monday. That's
Oh,
literally all the time.
we love lasagna, hate
Hate
Mondays.
And they, by the way, they bought the scariest place I have seen in a cold weather environment.
Do y'all remember
Since
the
the Shining Hotel.
horror house? It looks very similar. to
Really? You thought it looked like
Amityville.
Amityville?
Yeah.
I thought it looked like the house that would be like 2 blocks down the road from the Overlook Hotel.
The Shining. Well, it's a creep fest out there. Made even creepier by that landlord.
So it's in Minnesota. There's a reason Randy moved back to West
Yeah.
Virginia.
We get a lot of interview time with their landlord at that time. His name was Jeff
You
Wood.
mean the Chicago guy who's no doubt in this.
Yeah. Thick Midwest
I mean,
Chicago
full
accent.
Dicka.
Yeah, Dicka mustache.
Okay, there you
So-
go. I was a landlord. I never thought
so
nothing at first, but
He leases the house to them with
they seem like a nice couple.
it was a rent to own.
I make
so-
it deal.
He cuts them a deal and says, if you guys want to fix the house up while you're renting it, then you can eventually just buy
Don't
it.
call me on the weekends, okay?
So they move into this house. He promises
And
her
there's like 3 barns behind the house. Like there's all kinds of shit going on.
space. She, I think at this point, just has the 2 young daughters and the son with her, shared custody with the dad.
For now,
And so they live in Minnesota with her and then live with dad. And then the oldest daughter, I think, is on her own at this point. So
this one's bad, guys.
they are engaged, not married. And they start fighting a lot about the progress of the upgrades to this house.
Now, correct me. At one point, she goes on a trip, like down to Fort Hood to see the kids, or
Something
whatever
like
kids.
that. Yeah.
Now, while she's gone, he gets so excited, and Lord knows I've been there. You get so excited, and you think you're doing what's right for the couple itself,
Yeah.
for your own relationship, and it turns out, boy, were you wrong. So he has, what is it? He has a landscaper build a trail, like
through the
a
woods.
hiking trail, which sounds wonderful.
Either that or like another access point, like on another side, like you can drive your car to the road.
It sounds very productive.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's.
He did like
I'm
build
sure
a slide,
it
a
was
water
needed,
slide
yeah.
on Garfield, Minnesota.
Cave in
Sure.
the
And if he did, it would have been okay. No, so she comes back and now she's pissed because what didn't he build? What did she want?
she had been griping at him to get the kitchen upgraded.
She doesn't cook.
And so she leaves for 2 weeks thinking that, okay, well, he's gonna do the kitchen, I'll come home and have a brand new
That's
kitchen.
all just a power move.
And
That's not about
so-
what they need.
Yeah, so that's what they end up fighting about. And
Here we go, kids.
while this is all happening, she finds out from her daughter that Chris, the husband that just divorced her,
Donahue,
Chris Donahue, the one,
the younger man from the army.
yeah, this is her longtime husband that she's been with for like, I don't know, 15 years at this point, starts dating somebody else.
Well, I mean, he's caught her in bed already. Flew him
Yeah.
from Japan to find her in
He
bed.
starts dating a woman named Heather and bringing the kids around her. Like, I think they're living together.
Perfectly normal.
Yeah. And so Sarah goes bonkers. Like
Wait, now?
yeah.
Now she's
Yeah.
finally getting.
And she tells the daughter, things aren't working out with David. It's not what I thought. I want to get back with your father. So I need to figure out a way to get out of this relationship. And so she tells her daughter that and then goes back to Minnesota. And before she tells her daughter that she's leaving, she says, if anything happens to me and I have to defend myself, I need you to do what you need to do to arrange to get the kids to your dad's house. Very cryptic and weird. And the daughter's like, okay,
You know,
crazy.
like what would hold up as premeditated in any
Yeah.
court.
So then she goes back to Minnesota, and then a few days after her return,
How does this pop off? How does this
David is shot dead by her in the living room of that farmhouse.
But her retelling of it.
Yes. Oh God, it's so good.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The landlord Jeff Wood, when he's interviewed about it, he's like, sounded like a bad action movie.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I've never seen one so long motion picture than it was.
So
This was one of the lower
what
tier
she
ones.
tells police when they show up is that
Traffic showed up with her fucking life.
seriously, that he attacked her first. He shot at her first when she was coming down the
Pulled
stairs.
out a gun.
And so she said she like dives down the stairs, rolls onto the
Back to
landing,
behind the other side of the stairs.
and grabs her gun, which I guess they both are just walking around the house, and shoots back at him in defense.
But she's shooting
and shot
like this.
shot him like straight in the heart.
But
like,
she's shooting like this,
dead.
not looking.
Well, that's not what she told police. Then when she tells her son, that's when she changes the story and is like, I crouched on the stairs and was holding my gun above my head and just like blindly shooting. And even the son was like, you can't blindly shoot and hit someone dead in the chest.
Well,
like,
also, not at her weight, not at her.
Yeah.
Arnold could pull it off.
Yeah.
Sly could pull it off. I mean,
So little Garfield County,
Minnesota
police come out.
bought
And
every bit of
somehow
it.
she's able to convince them that, yeah, it was self-defense. I did what I had to do.
Hey, Katie Montgomery, eat your heart out.
Yeah, and they believe her. And the case isn't
I mean,
investigated.
not a trial.
Yeah, no trial, no charges, nothing. She's free to love again. And so
Not guilty.
after that, again, this was just a fiance, not a husband, but he is dead.
It's so hard to tally all those.
And then she stays in that house. She decides to continue living in Minnesota.
Oh no.
The landlord comes by one day to collect rent, and he said the propane guy. I don't know what that means. I don't have a propane guy.
No, we gotta march our ass up to Walgreens or HEB. In big rural areas. Propane, a little gassy. They'll drop it off to you.
Okay. Well, the
'Cause
local.
There's not a local place to.
Okay. The local propane man is now like staying at the house with
He's
her,
now
and
living
they're in a
there.
relationship. So the propane man ends up being.
With all due respect to Hank Hill and all the propane men.
The propane guy ends up being your guy that you thought
That's who I'm
this
waiting
is
for.
David again, another David, but David George. David
Okay.
George. So we are now caught up to where you were with
Okay.
David George. So David George and her end up getting married. So this is husband number 4. And between David number 1's death and meeting David number 2 and getting married to David number 2, ex-husband Chris marries this Heather woman.
The lady that he's been.
And they live in Arizona now.
They've run off to.
Yes.
And he thinks that's far enough away.
He thinks he's safe. He thinks that
But Sky Harbor's only a ticket away.
this problem. I can move on with my life. And in the photos, he looks very happy.
Yeah,
He will not be interviewed to save his life. Will not appear on
He won't even
camera.
text with Keith.
No,
There's this like the supervillain, Sarah was texting with Keith.
he sent photos, and that was the extent of his involvement in this episode. But so Sarah convinces new husband, David George. I'm getting it lost in my head too. That Heather, new wife, needs to die. We need to get rid of her. I don't know why though. They never explain like how she rationalized it away. They only explain that she threatened that she would divorce him if he didn't help her.
I think you know the reason why, and I'll let you kind of give your theory why. We'll go get somebody. I think it's clear it's that if you're not going to be with me, you're not going to be with anybody.
So it's like a test of loyalty.
No, there's no test of anything. It's just crazy.
Well, no. I get what you're saying. I understand why she did it, but I don't understand the story she used to convince her current husband that this woman needs to die.
Oh, right. And I think that again, it's another dumb, weak
And he
white
looks like
man.
it too.
Go on and explain it to all
Okay.
the fans.
Sorry that he's blocking the shot. So she convinces Chris.
He's a goddamn propane guy.
Convinces him to get involved with this. She devises a plan where she wants him to pretend to be a delivery person and deliver flowers to Heather. And while she answers the door, we're gonna shoot her. And she gives him the gun, the pistol to do it with. She ends up telling her daughter about this. I don't know why. I don't know if she feels like she's safe to open up to her daughter, but her daughter's already ratted her out once about the affair, and she's gonna do it again. So when she gets this information, oh, now I remember. The younger sister, Sarah, one of Sarah's younger kids, is living in Minnesota with her mom and new David #2 husband, and overhears the plot. And so she calls her sister to say, I need to talk to you now. There's something weird going on with mom. Tells her sister the plan. Sister then gets on the phone with her dad, Chris, who thinks he's free. And hello, Sam.
Why, hi.
He's back, guys. Tells Chris, dad, ex-husband, newly married.
Really the only good guy in the story.
What the deal is. Yeah. And so he calls his lawyer, he calls the police,
Ghostbusters,
everybody. And so we get this beautiful footage taken from like a Ring doorbell camera of David George showing up. And this is happening, I think, in 2020, 2021.
November of 2020. So we're at the peak of
COVID.
Joe, you better pull us off or we're living in.
So he pulls up to the house and he's standing with like a vase of flowers for Heather. And he rings the doorbell and Chris answers the door. And so that like blows the plan because it was supposed to be Heather answering the door and then he was going to shoot her.
But then he's later saying he didn't have the gun.
Yeah, he's chickened out basically. He's chickened out.
And I believe the husband or Chris goes like, hey, is there a card?
Is there a card? And he's like, yeah, let me check my card.
He just kind of runs around.
He's got gloves on, like head to toe. Yeah. So he hightails it out of there, goes back to Minnesota, tells Sarah, I didn't do it. I couldn't do it. So she locks him out of the house. She says, you can't come back in, and then divorces him. And it's like, I'm done with you. You're not going to do my dirty work. So she's down another husband. That's her fourth husband. Luckily, he lived. And again, no charges were filed, nothing.
But by the way, that is admitted attempted murder.
Yeah.
And accessory to murder and conspiracy to murder.
The worst that happens to her is that Chris now has full custody of all the kids. Like, she can't see her kids anymore.
She got no one to punch in the face.
Nobody to punch in the face anymore. He obviously gets a restraining order on her. Like, she can't come anywhere near Arizona, the state altogether.
Sky Harbor says we are closed.
So she then decides to pick up the shambles of her life. She's lost her kids. And so she goes back to the only place that she's ever felt good, and that's Texas. So she's back.
Oh, good.
And moves to Baytown. And we know about Baytown. We started in Baytown, guys. So we're back. It is now.
You mean a place where there's like more used to murder?
Yeah, where they're just more used to murder. So shortly after moving back to Texas, she starts online dating again.
It's not an ad,
Mingle.
Christian Mingle.
Yeah.
I believe even Key said, and that's when she begins trolling men.
Yeah,
on the website called
searching for more
Christian Mingle.
victims. And so she meets Joe. And after a month of dating, they decide to get married. So this is husband number 5.
That's where we started.
And this is where we started. Joe is not long.
Look at that, Key.
World.
Tie it up. Look.
So they marry in 2021. But by December 2022, Sarah is very vocal to her friends about how unhappy she is. She doesn't want to be in this marriage.
She's getting ahead of things.
Yeah.
He's like getting out front saying like, oh, this guy's so awful.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's sheepishly telling his friends like
He's
she's
also
abusing me,
they're both
but she's
not.
feeling like way ahead of
Yeah.
the game here.
So basically, she accuses him of like financial irresponsibility and that the house is always a mess and that he's just using her for money. And he's telling his friends that this bitch is psycho.
I'm saying this, if a messy kitchen is grounds for murder,
Uh-huh.
there have been weekends where we both should have been dead.
Firing squad. And then ominously, Joe tells his family in December of 2022,
Real code.
I'm afraid of her. I'm afraid she may kill me. And then
Now, he doesn't know. Does he know anything about the past?
That's what I don't think so, because we did hear from
There's something that would come up on a second date and just walk out.
we did hear from Joe's parents that when they met Sarah,
Those are sad religious people.
yeah, when they met Sarah, they didn't know she had been married like 3 or 4 times before.
So then they don't know shit.
Yeah, I think she said that she had been married once before.
It's like, I messed around with my friend Brian in high school.
Yeah. So then after telling his family, I'm afraid of her, I think she might kill me. A few days later is when he gets rushed to the hospital. And as we started this episode about, he dies.
Look at you, Kevin, wrapping this whole thing up.
Coma, she pulls the plug. And that's it. That's where we are. So we pick back up with my girl, DA Leak. She's
Stacey Rocks?
No, Stacey
Rock
Rock
works for DA Leak.
Yeah.
DA Leak puts up the Rocks sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
DA Leak, we're back with her, and she gets wind that Sarah, after Joe's death, is planning to move. And so she's scrambling because if she moves out of jurisdiction
in time,
then we're fucked.
You got no case.
Because she said, after investigating and hearing about all these other stories and talking to all these other people, it's crystal clear that this woman has done something. So she scrambles and she gets her indictment. And so before she's able to leave, Sarah goes into jail.
Are women like that the reason why Kathy Bates is playing the new Matlock?
Yeah, exactly.
Like
so Sarah is currently, as we speak, in custody.
Oh, thank you.
She's been charged with murder of Joe. And
other charges can't be tacked on.
However, Garfield police are now reopening
that
David One's murder
or
possible murder.
Right.
So they're saying like within the next months or so, like they'll be able to get another indictment.
So we'll at the very least we get another Dateline episode.
I have to assume, and I demand one. Actually, we need to know more.
Yeah.
So she is currently in custody.
Luckily, Matt doesn't have a lot of stuff going on to go to.
Keith Morrison says that they actually went to visit her in prison.
She would talk to him.
And that she wanted to appear on Dateline and that they were going to come back and do an interview, but then her attorney advised her, it's an active case. You're not going on fucking Dateline. But they allow her to text the Dateline producers.
Right.
And that's where these texts come in. And that's, as I was watching it, I was like, it's like the Donald Trump tweets, like as delusional as like, no, I didn't do that. My kids would probably say that it was abuse, but it wasn't abuse.
People say bad things every day.
Yeah, she is.
How great are we though?
Yeah, so
I bet you anything she voted for him twice.
I get like childhood trauma. I get that she wasn't given the best start in life, but I am not a professional in any way, shape, or form, but I would say that she has some sort of undiagnosed personality disorder. Possible chemical imbalance of some sort, would have benefited from like treatment of some sort.
You want to know my dime store theory?
Yes.
Got molested as a kid, saw the kind of treatment she got for that. Saw the way she was kind of like made out to be how great it was to get the fruits of being like, we're so sorry.
Yeah.
So then the rest of the time she starts trying to recreate it. He raped me. He molested me, and they're like, no, he definitely did it. You've never been in a room alone.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to call bullshit. And then when that starts going wrong, that just fucking powers her up.
Yeah, she seems like she's a narcissist. She seems like she has the mind of a child.
By the way, I'm not a
sometimes,
professional.
where she has to have it her way or no way.
I mean, to the point
a
of death.
brat.
To
Yeah.
the point, I mean, super brat.
So you learned a new term off of this episode. She's a classic Black Widow.
Sure.
Um,
And like I say, is you don't have to wait 2 years to get the movie.
yeah. So I had to explain what a Black Widow was to Sam. He'd never heard that term, but basically,
I thought it was Scarlett Johansson in a cute outfit making snarky comments to Tony Stark.
so it's a classic criminal profile of women who tend to remarry often, and their spouses are usually dead
And they just leave
for
a
some
trail of
reason.
bodies.
And usually it's like poison, or usually it's like some sort
What
of
about the
tragic
lady? What about the one
accident.
that's unrelated? But it's not the lady we saw. And maybe we'll go back and do the next one of these about that. The lady that poisoned her whole family with antifreeze.
Yes, yeah, it happens a lot. But this was another case, but this was a very extreme case where, like, I mean, she's burning people's houses down.
covered a whole-
Loves a burn down.
She really covered the entire NBA division if you think about all the cities she was in.
This bitch loves to burn shit to the ground in more ways than one. But that's pretty much it. Like, I would love to come back and do an update. I'm gonna keep my eye on trial dates, any kind of new indictments that come out, because I have to think that Dateline's gonna do an update on
Now, for the folks that want to go watch the episode,
this.
you find it on Peacock.
Peacock.
You can
stream-
listen to it on your podcast app.
Yes, and then also if you have like cable, it's gonna be in your on-demand
Of Dateline.
library of Dateline. But yeah, I really have my eye on a couple other cases that I would love to do
do this.
another episode. This season of Dateline has been killer. There have been killer,
Nice.
really great episodes of crimes that I haven't heard. And we talked yesterday because there's been the verdict out for Lori Vallow.
Yeah, we did talk about
And
that.
there is a Dateline episode that you need to
That
watch.
is a
about
crazy
that.
story.
The
Maybe we
Doomsday-
can know next.
Yeah, Doomsday Mom cult stuff.
Oh, well, we need to do that. next.
Because that one's a crazy one too. But
So what do you think? Maybe we try to do one of these once a week on the
maybe
show,
we'll have to. We're definitely gonna keep going.
'Cause
So
this was, let's be honest, let's pull back to it. This was your pitch.
this was totally my pitch.
Wanting to get into
I've always wanted to do this, so we're doing it. But yeah, I mean, thanks for watching, guys. Like, we'll definitely be back.
Great to have you back.
Great to be back in the new studio. Sam has been busy podcasting, and you can catch all of those
We had,
episodes.
the last episodes we had SNL alum and Abbott Elementary star Jerry Minor.
That's right.
And then we had the hilarious Trey Gallion.
Who's coming to do stand up?
He'll be in Cap City Comedy Club May 19th and 20th.
Perfect.
Uh,
And if you don't have time to sit down and watch those podcasts, you definitely have time to check out Love and Death, your latest.
How good has it been? I mean, I would be into it
Yeah.
if I wasn't.
Speaking of murder mystery, like, that's a good one. It's a true crime story. It happened in Texas back in the late 70s, early 80s. It's got infidelity, affairs, axe murder,
How about crazy? I don't mean me. Crazy good acting.
crazy good acting,
Elizabeth Olsen.
wonderful soundtrack.
know,
Especially if you're a Texas kid, you grew up in the area, it's very nostalgic. Like, I see my aunts and uncles.
Oh, if you grew up in
my old
Texas,
neighbors,
it's-
my
you
parents.
know where we are.
Yeah, down to the furniture, down to
By the way, you can
what's
see
on TV.
you can see such weirdos at homes, friends of the show as Brian Colson,
Uh-huh.
Rob Huey,
Uh-huh.
Terrell Troxler. I mean, it goes on and on.
Mackenzie Aston.
Mac Aston, absolutely.
All our friends. So it's really great. Check it out. Episodes 1 through 5 are out now, and it airs on Thursdays.
Thursdays, and we're back through the trial.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. And then what else? What else can we see?
You can catch me on the season finale of Walker that just aired.
It aired Thursday, and
Yeah,
that's
that's,
on
It's for free on the CW app.
CW app. But yeah, you
I
can
was
look.
in the stream.
Very different
That
looks
is-
in each.
Wasn't that fun?
Yeah,
Clean shaven and like matted down, and the other one just full on.
he's working on.
I love that they let me rock the Lakota bear claw on
Yeah.
Walker.
We saw the medallion on TV.
That was very fun. Rob, Huey, and I are shooting a political pilot in the next couple weeks. Comedy.
Mm-hmm.
a burned out political consultant and a rich guy in his 40s that just inherited a lot of money and thinks he's about to run for president.
Reminds me of nobody I know.
On either way,
Either way.
either front.
But yeah, so we are really appreciative if you spent time with us this afternoon. We will be back. I will
To
be
do
back.
true crime.
And thanks, guys. It was
It's been so much fun. You can check us out YouTube. Obviously, you watch this on YouTube, Weirdos at Home, Facebook, Weirdos at Home. And if anybody talks to Colin Allred, tell him to keep texting Tara.
I'm getting the text.
Colin,
No
keep
text
on
back
running.
yet.
You have a simple.
All right. Bye, guys. Thank you so much.